Yeah, my name is Judy Persons, and obviously I'm based here in the UK. And this is actually a little presentation, or part of a presentation that I did for a networking group, and that I tend to do quite a lot over here, because I think that a lot of people kind of think that they should connect with everyone and anyone on LinkedIn, and actually not think about the integrity of their network. I think a lot of people have said, especially when people invite you to connect as well, because there's so many sort of fake profiles and bots on there. And so this is something that I go through with people, because I think it's personally, I think really important for people to understand that, you know, it's not about connecting with everyone. It's about making sure that you connect with people that you want to meet and want in your network. And I think it was Business Insider that said that LinkedIn is seen as the most trusted social media platform. So I think when people get connection requests sent to them, they just think, oh, you know, wow, it's, you know, it must be safe. And there has been actually in the UK a campaign by the local government here to educate local people who do work in the government, not about just clicking on anyone. It was something about, it was like, you know, think before you click campaign. So I think it's quite a big thing here. So if I just share my screen, I'd go into that. Is that okay? Can you still see that okay?
Yep, you're
perfect. Good. So I really actually be really interested for the panelists and everybody else who are experts to get your feedback as well on what you do to make sure, you know, and advise people on who they should be connecting with. So one of the first things I always say about how, you know, it's important to have a network, because, you know, if you want to sort of grow your business and you want to generate leads, you've definitely got to be connected. There's no doubt about it. But it's also about having a network of the people that you want to meet. And as I said before, that the biggest mistake people sometimes make is that they think they need to have the largest network in order to be successful on LinkedIn. And I know, I'm not sure if you've seen some people who have got very large networks, because they've not actually taken any time to think about how they're growing their network. When they're posting content on LinkedIn, they're getting absolutely no engagement because the people that they're connected with aren't interested in what they've got to say. So what actually I say to people is not about having a big network, but having an engaged network of people who are interested in what you've got to say and who are actually going to engage on your content. So it's about understanding, like anything, like any marketing, it's about understanding who your audience is and growing your network around them. And so when it comes to protecting the integrity of your network, it's about who is asking you to connect and actually doing your due diligence and deciding, do I actually want to connect with these people or not? So this is something that I just go and show some examples here. So this is a story of Mohammed, and he sent me a connection request. And basically, this was what I usually say to people is that, you know, obviously he's got his name, he has no photo, 2 dots is his headline, but I've got 10 people here that are already connected to that are in my network. And some people could be very tempted just to click on accept. But what people need to do is actually go in and have a look at their profile and go, do I want to actually accept this person? Because Mohammed had absolutely nothing at all on his profile other than his name and the fact that he's from Sudan. And yet he had over 500 connections, 10 of which were mutual. And, you know, you have to ask yourself, why would you connect with this person? Why does this person or this fake profile, this bot here, add any value to your LinkedIn network? This is another one I left because I thought it was quite funny. But, you know, on the face of it, because I work with people to help them with their LinkedIn and I help them with their LinkedIn profiles and how they position themselves, and I work with people who work for themselves, on the face of it, this guy could potentially be a good prospect. He sent me a connection request. And, you know, he's not got that many connections. It's fine. 88 of them are mutual. But actually, when I looked at his activity, when you start to drill down and look at people's profiles and you see the kind of stuff that he's posting, you know, hi, anyone interested in meeting me for a good time? Or, you know, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the one and only Sexy Phil. Why would you connect with me? It is crazy. Absolutely unbelievable. And yet 88 people that I know, and 400 in total, have done it. It's like, wow. So, you know, so these things are easy to pick up on, obviously, isn't it? You know, if you just take the time to do that bit of due diligence and have a look at them and see whether you want to connect with them. Then others are a little bit harder. You see, on the face of it, these probably look all right. So this lady, Sylvia Finn, she's got a nice photo, has got some keywords in her headline there. So on the face of it, and I've got quite a lot of shared connections, again, 27 shared connections. So again, on the face of it, you think, oh yeah, this person is okay. And you might go ahead and accept. But what happens is that these fake profiles and people like that will hide within big companies. So this lady here, so she does remortgage and asset finance and things like that, and works at a company called ERT. But actually ERT are a pharmaceutical company based in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And it's just so easy to hide as a fake profile in these large sort of companies. And I think LinkedIn, and I think some of the panelists will be able to tell me, but I think LinkedIn is doing something to help company page managers actually manage who are linking their personal profiles. And then, of course, the other big sort of gripe I have is that with the LinkedIn mobile, it's just too easy, isn't it? Just to go tick, 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 tick. Oh, I've got 4 shared connections, 3 shared connections here. And even if you actually go and click on the person to have a look at more at them, you only get a little sneak preview of them. It doesn't give you the full information of who that person is. And again, because LinkedIn is seen as the most trusted platform, people are just really tempted just to go and click on accept. They don't do that due diligence. So you really do need to go in and have a look at people's profiles. I mean, for me, sort of red flags are ones where they've got very, very little information on their profiles. Of course, you know, spelling mistakes, bad grammar, all that kind of stuff. So I always say, you know, be careful, don't just accept, definitely always review their profile. And people say to me that they're really worried about ignoring because they think it's rude, and it's not rude at all. Absolutely ignore and actually report to LinkedIn if necessary. So I always say, look for those red flags. So actually going back to this lady who was hiding in, I forgot to say, this lady here actually is a fake profile. That photo is, she's a Love Island Australia celebrity. So she's like a Z-list celebrity and stuff like that. So those are the kind of red flags that you need to look at. You know, is the profile photo actually them? Is it a stock image? Is it a famous person or a logo? Usually people will hide behind those. Is a limited information, as I said, you know, they even, you know, they may have an odd 1 or 2 skills on there, but they've got nothing under their about section, nothing, you know, maybe just a job title and a bit of a company name for an experience. They've got literally nothing on their profile. Look for all those, any sort of typos, odd grammar, things that just don't sound right, just don't seem, you know, just seem a little bit suspicious. And certainly there'll be very, very little social proof, so recommendations or endorsements on skills. And, you know, and like with Phil, the sexy Phil, just make sure you check their activity and that, you know, they're not really posting things that they should not be posting. And of course, go in and ignore. Is everybody familiar with how to do this? Shall I go through this, Isaac? Yes.
You know, I don't recall seeing ignore.
So if what I do is, if you you can go to the more button here on somebody's profile if they sent you a connection request, and it gives you this drop down menu option here.
For pending invite. Gotcha.
Yes, for a pending invite, exactly. So this is somebody who's a 2nd degree connection has sent me a connection request which I've not yet accepted. I could choose to ignore, or I could choose to report or block from here. So if I click on report and block, that comes up with this window, which tells people, you know, what is it you want to do, and you want to report content on their profile, which if you click on this sort of button here, this arrow here, will open up another window, which then says, what content on this profile are you reporting? So you do have to jump through a few hoops to actually try and report somebody. And then you would actually then click on profile information, and then you can decide whether, you know, it's fake, which most of the time I think it's suspicious or fake, is the ones I would go for, but and things like that. I also use Tineye I don't know if anybody's come across Tineye, but I use that to check out people's photos. You can just simply go onto their profile photo on LinkedIn, do a right click over their profile photo to get their URL of the photo, and you can then drop it into something like Tineye or Google, and it will tell you whether it's a photo that's been used several times before and it's one, then it's definitely going to be dodgy. I don't know if anybody else has any other examples of profiles, photo searches, but I find that one, Tineye, is the best. And I think the other thing that people need to really understand is that LinkedIn can be hacked. I know at least 2 people who have had their LinkedIn accounts hacked. Somebody's got into them, they've taken over the account, they then send messages to all their connections with dodgy links. So one of the things I do is always get people to check how secure is my password. Again, I don't know if you've come across this at all over in the US, but this is one that I use, and you can type in your password and it will tell you how quickly that particular password will get hacked. So for example, something as simple as that, it'd take a day. Just putting a little sort of uppercase letter in there would take it a bit longer. But something I was told to always use spaces in my passwords. So I've got a 3-word password, which would take like trillions of years to actually hack. So, if you do nothing else from today, just go back and check your password, make sure it's a nice strong one so that you're not going to get hacked. And that basically was my little presentation with regards to making sure that you just don't connect with anyone or anyone, really. So I don't know, it'd be really good to see get people's thoughts.
Hey, Judy, real quick, can you go back to
Yes.
quick that screen where you showed your password? What do we go to check that?
Oh, I'll pop the link in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Could you please?
This one here. How secure is my password?
Awesome, Judy. Thank you. And so let's move into panelist discussion. And Scott, you've been a panelist forever in the past, and so feel free to chime in here too, even though it's been a minute. Judy, I have a question for you. Can you walk us through a couple, storylines? What happens when you accept an invite of a fake profile or a real profile, or like a real person, and then like the malicious side there? Like, how would you foresee that unfolding in the story of your life in a negative way?
So the least negative way, I guess, is that you are just building your network. So a lot of people say, well, why would somebody send you a connection? So for example, Mohammed from Sudan, why would this fake bot even bother? And basically, what a lot of people do, that when somebody accepts a connection request, not only are you diluting your network, but that person, that fake profile, that bot, then has the opportunity to actually then see who you're connected with, especially if you have got your connections open. If you've got your connections open to everyone, they potentially could go in and start then connecting with your contacts. And basically, they get the data and it all gets sold. They're selling the data, as I heard, is the worst thing that can happen. And I think, obviously, when you connect with somebody directly, it means that you can message them. As I say, you can then trick them potentially by clicking them on a dodgy link, for example. So I think it's all these things that when you connect with someone, you have become a first degree connection, is that you can message them. So I think for me, those are probably the worst things that can happen.
My experience has been like I'm a guy, and so I think I'm less likely to be targeted by a predator. I don't know. I just feel like the horror stories are usually gals, but my experience has been mostly reselling my information. And what bothers me, what has been the most malicious to me, was my phone number. And so I first removed my phone number from being displayed after connecting, and then my email as well. But because what would happen is I would get just horrible, gross texts. And I was like, where is this coming from? I don't want this anywhere in my house. And then we'll go to my WhatsApp and all kinds of stuff. And so for me, I think that has been my experience of the worst case scenarios so far, other than, just people that don't know when to stop messaging you, but that's kind of just.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I've not had that, Isaac, actually. I have to say I've been quite lucky. Yeah, but that is bad. Yeah.
Any other panelists have any questions for Judy or comments on vetting profiles, cost, risk benefit analysis of just pushing stuff? Go ahead, Mike. I
got a question. I caught something in there that I was unaware of, and that is spaces and passwords.
Yes, I was told by of cybersecurity to actually put spaces in your passwords, because that actually makes it really strong. So LinkedIn password,
I was not aware that was even allowed. Has anyone else done that?
It depends on the platform. I use periods instead of spaces. But
I'm just talking about spaces.
Yeah.
But spaces with an underscore. It's not a space.
I'm not talking about spaces with an underscore. I'm talking.
That's what I'm saying. That you cannot do a space. It has to be an underscore or a hyphen. That's what I'm saying. They're not going to allow.
My question.
That's it.
That
right?
was
So
my
they're not
question
going to
for
allow
Judy.
a blank space. Yes.
That was my question for Judy.
Yeah, my LinkedIn password is spaces, and I agree. Not all platforms allow you to have spaces, but a lot of my passwords do have actual physical spaces, not underscores or anything.
Yeah, and I agree with the spaces, and the most powerful passwords, from my understanding, is phrases that you can remember that are unrelated to your life. So you don't use combinations of any of your personal information, but you could, for example, say orange wheel, orange space wheel, space park, space apple tree, and that's an uncrackable password, as long as you have a relationship to it.
May I suggest using a password manager, so you don't have to, because those can be cracked. Hackers are great. Password manager, it's incrackable. Because it comes
like LastPass.
Crazy. Yeah, LastPass is what I use.
Yeah, we use LastPass too.
I had two comments, Judy, and this is Judy month. So love hearing your perspective, Judy. Two things. One is I'm always sensitive to bots or automation. So that's why my first name has a lowercase j. So that's a dead giveaway. So when I get an invite with a lowercase j, it's automatically automation. And also I learned this from Brenda Miller. She has a really nice script that she uses, that she responds back when she gets one of those generic, hey, we're in the same industry, or we share the, in the same circles, which is, what the hell is that? And sometimes you can turn those around, it's an interesting thing that if you respond back, a lot of times I don't hear anything back. So I just assume they're using automation, and, it didn't trigger anything. But I just think being very discerning, because that's what affects the stuff that's in your feed too, because every time you connect to somebody, you're following them. And then all of a sudden your feed has, if they're posting anything, it just diminishes. If you ever look at your SSI score and look at the quality in your network, and, you see what that is, it's like, oh, wow, I have a lot of weird connections versus, useful connections. So yeah, but great presentation, Judy. Great topic.
Oh, cheers. Thank you. And actually what Scott's put in the messages about, I was saying about TinEye, but obviously he's saying that it's not as reliable anymore. So that's really good to know. It's actually put another option in there. So this person does not exist.com. So I'll definitely check that out.
Well, that actually generates fake faces, and people who are creating fake profiles do that. So it won't show up in an image search, because you can just go here.
Right. Oh, I see. They do
download
that.
it. And
so is there no way at the moment then of actually being able to tell?
There's discussion of the technology to be able to identify those fake generated faces, but I have not yet found a publicly available tool for doing that freely.
Oh, right. Okay, that's interesting.
If I could,
honestly,
I could share go ahead.
No, go ahead, Scott.
I was going to share, because I've been really good about detecting fake profiles and reporting them for years. And I fell for one recently, and should share this because I will tell you that scammers in the crypto space may be far more sophisticated than the Nigerian prince things. I got connected to someone who was supposedly a co-founder of Binance and was now and supposedly a co-founder of Binance, and they actually got into a conversation with me. I mean, looked totally legit on the surface. They had a company, their company had a LinkedIn page. It linked out to a website that appeared to be a crypto exchange.
Wow.
And I got into a conversation with her, and as I started kind of realizing that she was very subtly getting me to register for this new exchange, I went and checked out reviews on it. The site, they claimed to having all these great reviews. Well, basically the site was the site was a phishing site. So,
wow.
But this was someone who knew what they were doing, knew what they were talking about, very well past as Serbian or whatever crypto person. So just be really mindful, because if you put in your API keys to a crypto exchange, it can be problems. So
yeah,
you can.
That's wild, Scott.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. I think, as technology gets better, the quickly being able to look at a profile and guess if it's a real person or not, it's going to get harder. It's just always going to be getting harder. Like,
yes,
you see all the deep fake stuff on the news. It's just like,
yeah,
what do you trust? And then I think that in my mind, there's like 3 passes. There's look at the profile, just try to sniff it out. And then if it passes the sniff test, see if they'll have a conversation. And then if they do have a conversation, where's it going? And are they going to ask for my crypto wallet keys? Right, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
I think
Any
it's
other
just,
panelists want to chime in before we move into open Q&A? No? All right, Judy, any you want to add anything to that before we move into open Q&A?
yeah, I just think it's so important to make sure that people understand and are aware that it isn't just about, it is about being careful about who you connect with and doing that due diligence. And I don't think it can be overemphasized. And I think, LinkedIn keeps saying that they're trying to do a lot to get rid of the fake profiles and stuff like that. But I think that we need to be actually working with them and highlighting and reporting it where we can. And hopefully they do something about it.
Yeah, Judy, I did not realize, I'd never put it together. Like, if you have your email displayed after connecting for first degree contacts, that email can be used as a login. And so as long as someone's connected with you and you haven't changed that setting, all someone has to do is part 2 is find your password. I'd never even thought about that.
Yes, yeah, I think absolutely easy way to get hacked, isn't it? If you don't have a strong password. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right, let's move into open Q&A. So I'll take a quick peek through the chat here. If you put it in the chat, all caps question, and then Shireen, 30 seconds or less, please. And then panelists and Judy, feel free to chime in. Go ahead, Shireen.
Okay, so first one thing on the password, because I think passwords are huge. I've been hacked with LinkedIn once. They were able to restore it. But what I would suggest is a nomenclature for your password, right? And when I say that, so when I think about, I'll give you like sort of, right, with an app, you said like the first, so you don't forget it, the first 3 letters, maybe in all caps, right? And then your nomenclature, which like you might replace an A with an at, or it could be whatever nomenclature you can come up with, because it's going to be the same, but it's unhackable with the nomenclature. The only thing that would change is like if you're doing an app, the first 3 letters, right? And you can create however you want to do it, uppercase, lowercase, whatever, to make it a strong password. That's what I suggest to my clients when you're trying to remember all these passwords. Just figure out what your nomenclature is going to be. And then for every app, it's going to be the same exact, frame, right? Uppercase, lowercase, first 3 letters, whatever the app is, and then your nomenclature. So just a thought on that. The second thing that I just want to say, so I want to say thank you to Judy, but this, because of what you're saying, and just because of this whole, what Isaac and Monty have been doing, I have put out my challenge. I do not accept a connection request until we get on a Zoom call first. And that has weeded out so many people in terms of
Wow.
you're not real, right? I know. So I only accept a request after we have gone through the process of me meeting you exactly, learning about you, you learning about me. And then I say, okay, if this works, we're acquainted, then I'll accept the request. And I'm telling you, I have seen people who just want to pitch. I have seen people who want me to hire them and the whole 9 yards. And if they don't pass that test, they don't become part of my network. So and it's working like a charm. It's really exciting. So I just wanted to put that out
Awesome,
there.
Shane.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions from the group? Questions or brief comments, 30 seconds or less. Let's try to keep it on point with Judy's presentation for building the right kind of network, keeping bad players out, that kind of thing. Any questions or comments?
I repeatedly I repeatedly have to go delete people because I've been at 30,000 connections for 13 years now.
Wow.
And so I have to go delete 100 people to add 100 people and stuff. And my deleting process might be of a little bit of interest. It started out going country by country. So A through A, I'm at the U's right now. So you're pretty far down that path. But you go through these oddball countries and you look at these people that you accidentally connected to sometime over the years, and you just remove connection. And I like to do it on the phone.
Yeah.
It works out really good on the phone for me. But I delete 100, 200 at a time. And then a couple months later, 6 months later, maybe even, I got to go do it again. I'm really careful with who I invite in now, but I wasn't always in the early days. We didn't know where this was going way back when. When I hit 30,000 connection in 2009, we didn't know what the implications were of that. Having to delete people to add people, it kind of sucks. Really,
Yeah.
Especially 13 years later, you got to really peel back, and so you start by countries. Then you go by industries. You start kicking people out of industries you don't care about, literally A to Z. So that's been my technique for deleting. If it applies to anyone, it might apply to Scott. He's up there with me.
Also, Mike, go ahead, Judy.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say that I think Judy or somebody mentioned this, but also if anybody pops up on my newsfeed, either a first degree connection that's commented on a second degree connection post and I don't like it, and I find that's a really good way to remove connections, or certainly unfollow or mute.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a long process, isn't it, to get rid of connections.
I was going to say, Mike, and then Viveka, you're up. I was going to say another good one too is to do a search first degree, and then either in keyword or the current title, retired, because if they're retired,
I've already done that. I've already done that one. I know what you mean.
If they're retired and you're working, I don't know. There you go. All right, Viveka, what's up?
I mean, I've never had those number issues like meeting the 30,000 yet, at least. But I mean, I'm really discerning. I've never used automation, so I never had to worry about sort of random outreach in any way. But I mean, before I connect, I'm going to look at their profile. But most importantly for me, at least, is I'm going to look at their activity, their high quality activity. If they haven't been active for 90 days, we're not going to connect. I mean, what's the point? Or if they have a bot or whatever is in place to reach out. But I look at their activity, number one, and what are they saying? And that takes a little bit of time, but I have a super high quality list because of that. Now, it's not huge, but it's about 5,000, but they're well vetted from the beginning. So I don't really have to clean up too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I agree. It's if you're sort of careful with who you connect with, you don't have to go in and clean the list so much, do you?
I'll outline on that one a little bit, and that a lot, only a certain percentage of people on LinkedIn, legitimate users, actually post. It's a big bar for someone to get. I'm going to actually post. It's like, oh my God, CEOs of companies, decision makers, sales managers, people that are busy on their jobs aren't posting very often, or posting at all.
Yeah.
Now, you do get a really great folks in your network if you only pull in people that post. I agree. That's like targeting people who've posted in the last 30 days. Great filter and stuff. But there's a lot of people that lurk that are legitimate users out there that just don't post. I think probably half of the people on LinkedIn, have never posted maybe.
But the lurkers, even lurkers, even if they don't have, even if they're not super active, they're going to be reacting, and they're going to be diving in sort of the comments where they feel a little bit safer. And so you can even look at that a little bit too. But yeah, I get it. I mean, there are a lot of people that aren't posting, not super active in the sense that they're showing up with their own, original posts, but
they're legitimate users. I mean, legitimate people. We're not talking about fake people.
Right.
A lot of us are trying to get people to post for the first time as experts, right? Let's try a post. Let's try this. We can do it. We can do it. Come on, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Scott, you raised your hand, didn't you, Scott?
Yeah, I hardly ever post. so yeah. I mean, I comment a lot, but I hardly ever post.
So a lot of this conversation has been focused on a character who's like maybe not real. But I think that it's worth spending a little time talking about the people who are real and just crazy out of their mind. Like I had a call with a client yesterday, and there's a real human being that they knew in real life, and they were connected on LinkedIn, and just viewing that person's profile, they got a notification that they viewed their profile, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you want to talk?" And then it's like, "What did you just say?" It's just so wildly inappropriate. So it's there are bots and all that jazz, and there's also real life crazy people, and I think they're a little harder to weed out. Has anybody?
Yeah, I find that election season is a good time for pruning my list.
Yeah.
Well, and it's and to be clear, I'm kind of equal opportunity in that. It's not just finding people I agree with, but anyone, but people tend to get abusive, and I don't want people like that on my list. So that's every election season I typically prune several hundred people.
Has anyone connected with a real person that was a little bit crazy and then learned a lesson about how to prevent that from happening? I'd be curious if anyone's walked through that. Want to share?
Crazy people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably just too ugly to get stalked, but anybody here like have that happen to them?
Well, aside from the people that think it's Tinder.
Right. Yeah. Share a little bit about that, because I think that's right in line with what Judy was saying.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, do you shame them on the platform? I'm not a big believer of that. I do screenshot everything. So that's the first thing, because even if you disconnect them or block them, I screenshot, so I get their URL and I screenshot their message. So I have it all documented, and then I'll go ahead and report the profile and the post. So you have to do two different reportings. So the little three dots, you can report the post, and then I'll open up a new window before I report it, because it'll block it, and then I'll report the profile. But yeah, there's just a lot of, it's an open, fertile field for scammers, so I think just being diligent. I wish there's something on Twitter. It's like a LinkedIn parody account. They put all this weird stuff that LinkedIn posts. I almost wish that there was
LinkedIn.
Yeah, something like that. I wish there was like a wall of shame for these like terrible messages. I mean, I got one that was all in Chinese characters, and I'm like, well, why would I even want to connect? I can't even read anything. And their name was all in Chinese, everything, or maybe it was some other, I assumed it was Chinese. I don't know, but it wasn't legible. I couldn't read it. But yeah, it is interesting.
I'll run those on LinkedIn Intelligence.
Yeah, but I think, ultimately what when it comes down to it, like, I think the stat was something like out of the almost 800 million accounts, 40 are like, actively engaged on the platform, meaning that they log in, they know their password, right? The rest are bogus accounts. And then out of those 40, I think the latest number is like somewhere between 3 to 5% are active. I try to believe that at the end of the day, there's a real person on the other end of that. And maybe they just have bad practice, And so I do try to not be as Brooklyn on them. When I go Brooklyn, man, it's like there's no stopping me. You talking to me? I just try to have a little compassion, and I have had some really good conversations with people as a result of, hey, I appreciate you reaching out, but this is kind of bad practice. If you want to talk about a good practice, or blah blah blah, whatever, and a couple of them I've turned around and actually have had engaging conversations. They turn out to be good connections. The rest are no use, report. But that's what we got to remember, that we have people that may not know that there's a real person on the other end and they don't know how to behave. And so, I figure us here, we have a higher standard to be decent citizens on LinkedIn, right? Yeah, everyone's shaking their head. No. But, I try to cut them a little slack, maybe they don't know. But, and then I get one to say, hey, you're not going to pitch me, right? And then they go right into the pitch. And it's like, I thought we had an agreement here. And then I send them my pitch slap cartoon. Boom.
That'd be a good gift to put together, actually.
Yeah, I got it here. I got it on the bulletin board. And Isaac, you were the one that first said, here it is, guys. It's, I don't know if you can see it. Pitch slap. It's like you were the one I first heard that from. So I say Isaac Anderson coined that phrase because pitch slap. It was like, oh man, you just caught me, And I'm having a conversation with someone right now, and he, give me one of those generic messages. We're in the same industry. So I said, well, tell me, what industry is that? And then he went into this whole thing. He thinks I'm like some high-level management consultant. It's like, let me tell you something. I'm not your target. And if you want to talk a little bit about that, so we'll see where that goes. I don't know.
It's actually, that reminds me, Judy. So what you can do too is, if you're wanting to be extra careful, if someone sends you an invite with a note, you can reply and talk before connecting.
All the time. All the time. Yep. I do that all the time now. You all know how to do that? You have to click see all, I think.
Yeah.
Here, should I do that? I'm sure I've got a couple bad.
You click manage. You click manage. So when you click on my network, you click on the top right there that says manage, and it brings them all down. And this way you can actually see, and it says reply to. Yeah. So yeah, I've got a bunch.
All right. So here.
And then it's all tumbleweed, isn't it? When you don't hear anything.
So I bet $20 that says Keaton Campbell is not a real person.
Or even Danielle Piquet, this MD, PhD, clinical. You got no one in common? Seriously? Out of all the connections you have, no one in common?
So if I push reply, I can talk to this person and not use an in-mail credit. And that's free or paid accounts. So again, if you want to be extra careful, that's an easy way to sniff it out with the conversation without committing to connecting.
Yeah, a lot of times, I will tell people, I appreciate the outreach. I suggest you follow. And if you engage with content, then, maybe we connect down the road. Because at this point, you have to have a connection strategy, right? Are you just there to grow your network? Because every person you connect to opens up your second degree network to give or take 400 people. That was like some data point. I'm making it up, but it's true. So have a strategy and say, okay, right now I'm going to build my network. And Mike and I have talked about like lions. There's certain lions that make sense because they may be in an industry and they may just have an open policy, and that helps you then for building your network. Once you get past a certain threshold, like 500 or 1,000 or 2,500, then it's a little bit more discerning. And, you can target like trade associations or speakers at events, but, having a strategy for your network impacts everything else you do, because it's one of the legs on the stool. It's your network, and then it's your activity and really, and your profile.
Here's the thing too. So we're all obviously real people, and no one here's a creeper. We have to overcome that barrier of cynicism created by bad actors. And so it's worth putting a little thought into, if you are growing your network intentionally, how are you being perceived as well? From everything from your profile to your invite message to your activities. What does that say about you to a person who's checking you out, right? Judy Parsons, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think if you're doing things intentionally, and for me, I see LinkedIn's another marketing tool in the marketing kit bag. So you should be doing things intentionally. And if you've got your profile set up correctly, you're connecting with the right people, I think it just hopefully would make you, and you're posting the right stuff, that you would make you look professional and a good person to connect with, I hope, if that's what you mean, Isaac.
Yeah. I think a video cover goes a long way too, right? Because if you are, you can't like do an amazing, at least not yet, you can't do an amazing deep fake video of a person. So like when you go to someone's profile and they've got the little video cover story on where the profile picture is. That to me is a good indicator that it's probably a good person too.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you
That's where I got, Judy, that's where I got the gift that I used in the email that went out today.
Oh, dear.
if that person's profile has absolutely no activity, then, and their title has something to do with sales or business development or whatever, and it's a company that you have no interest in, then why connect?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just move on, ignore, move on.
Yeah.
You don't even have to, just move on.
That's the
All
thing.
right.
You don't have to connect with everyone. You just connect with the people you want to meet, whether that's, people in your industry, people that you network with, people, that you're interested in, and things, and people you want to work with.
It's just
All right,
like
Shireen.
if you go to an event, I'm sorry, if you went to a real life event, how do you decide who you're going to walk up to? How do you decide who you're going to talk to, right? Same thing.
If they're strangers, yeah, if they're smart, if they look approachable and smiling.
There's no BO radar on LinkedIn. Shireen.
I was just going to say, like, to Judy's point, in terms of having a strategy, again, beforehand, I would just, if I looked at somebody's profile and it seemed like it was going to be worth it, I would accept it. But now I just I don't want to be doing that, because like I said, I don't know if I shared this, that, I want to connect with people so that at the appropriate time, not only can I introduce them to somebody, but I will introduce them to somebody. But I can't do that if I don't know you, right? I can't do that effectively if we have never had a conversation, right? And so when I think about the strategy that I've implemented now with having a call with somebody before I had connect, one thing I have found is the ones that actually take me up on that, they are starved for conversation. Like one person I had was in the Czech Republic, right? I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting, right? But we had an amazing conversation. And out of that conversation, he says, I will be sure to recommend you for anybody who would need the coaching, or because you have given, I gave him a play to run, and he was like, oh my God, that's great. I appreciate that. Right. But I was just in a conversation with him, and I just get that. He's like, I love it. In fact, he said, I hope you don't mind, but I took your messaging and I've applied it myself. So he's taking on doing calls based off of that. And I just think that it just opened up a world of, yes, I don't need to connect with everybody. I need to find the right people to connect with. And one of the ways to do that is to have a conversation, right? And if they don't want to show up, like I had a no-show yesterday, but he was the one that is in India and wants me to hire him because he's out of work. I'm like, well, dude, I can't help you with that. So it's okay that you're a no-show. And I know it's an ignore because I'm not going to accept your request to connect. Mm-hmm. So I just think that when I think about the shifting terrain of LinkedIn, I do think that we have to be an active participant to do that, right? Like how can I be active in making sure that I have the right connections, and going back to my old connections, the people that I have connected with, the same process. And if I find that they're not going to want to jump on a call just to reconnect, get reacquainted, they might go all on the delete list, right? I don't need all these people to be a part of my network. I want a power network. So just a thought on that.
What's interesting, as soon as someone breaches that trust and starts pitching, I not only tell them you just ruined it, because then they send you these long messages with links and all this crap. And I got to tell you, if you don't, even if you know the person, be very careful of clicking links. That's why that new warning comes up. Because that's phishing, it's malware, it's all kinds of weird stuff. But especially something that says OneDrive, those are usually very suspect. Yes. But then I disconnect from them, because at that point, I know they're either they've outsourced their engagement or there's absolutely no value there. And so why have them as a connection? One other thing I learned from Brenda Miller, who always has great ideas. She sometimes just sends the word test. And it gets them stumped. It's like, what do you mean by test? It's like, oh, okay, you're a real person. But just something as simple as test. I just thought it's just so funny. Yeah, test, exactly.
Try that. I like that.
Or, if you want to know the bots, put a little symbol in front of your first name field, because the scrapers will pick that up. Also, the email that I have that's visible says Judy plus LinkedIn, which I don't use for anything except that's the visible because I have a G account, a G Suite account, so I can customize it, Judy plus, whatever. And this way I know if somebody has scraped it or used it without my permission. And then lastly, LastPass or OnePass. By the way, LastPass just sent me a coupon. If anyone is interested in it, I think it's 20% off. I mean, I don't have anything to do with them, but they send me something. So if anyone wants to try it, it is
Cool.
Amazing. I only have to remember one password.
Yeah.
Hey, Judy, do you ever have messages come to you that you know are automated that have a capital J in Judy?
Yes. Yeah. Well, they're not necessarily automated. They're scripted, because when they are first of all, I will also look to see if they looked at my profile.
Yeah.
Okay, that if they haven't looked at my profile and they're saying we're in the same circle or we're in the same industry, or I love the one that says, "Oh, I see you're a CPA," and I'm like, and my response is,
What?
where do you see other,
Yes,
because
we'll
on my
go out in a minute,
profile,
okay?
I have worked with a CPA and I think I still
Yes.
have it active. So they think I'm a CPA. So it's that kind of stuff. It really is. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I do is when I want to connect with somebody, I will go down and look at their recommendations. So if you're Michael O'Neill, but in your recommendations, everyone says, "Hey, Mike is a great guy," then I'm going to personalize the invite to you as much as possible.
Do the same thing, Judy. I look at when people say full name or not. Yep, that's a really good tip for everyone. I would just point out that many of the systems and stuff are adding a feature that cleans up the first name field. Okay, it's a feature that's being added to many of the systems. So your small j would be a capital J. The check mark in front of your name would be removed. They put some intelligence to the first name field and clean it up. I'm just not my systems don't do that, but many of the other systems seem to be adding features like that, and we'll probably get it too.
And Mike and I suffer from that algorithm on the last name. Because
yeah,
N will many times. Yeah.
I get ampersand 139 NEIL in my name, even in Facebook still.
And lowercase n.
Yeah, lowercase n, right. Yep.
So another sage advice that I heard from another LinkedIn trainer, Bryn, and her advice is slow down the outreach to speed up the outcome. And when you think about that, slow down that outreach, be more deliberate, be more specific, be more intentional, more personal, you will have a much better outcome, and very powerful.
Yep. All right, we have maybe time for one more brief life-changing question for the group, if anyone has it, but it has to be fast and short in 2 minutes or less. Any takers? All right, that is it. Everyone, we will see you next week. I believe the topic for next week is, let me just see here. I changed it just to give you a little preview. It's going to be, it's going to be loading really slow. Where to find your tribe on LinkedIn. So we'll be talking about doing content search filters, groups, events, all the kind of things where your people might be that's not immediately discoverable through like just a person search. Cool. All right, so that's coming up next week. We'll see y'all later. Have a great week. Thank you everybody for your time, especially you panelists. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. See everyone.